Hello everyone. Good evening to everyone, and this is Vinod from Myself Academy and your YouTube channel Excel Snippet. This is video number 5, part 2 on Vlookup in Excel. So in the last video we saw how to work with the table function, and probably that's the video that I've built a few days back, and today we are about to see how to work with lookup. What is Vlookup? Vlookup stands for vertical lookup. So when I say vertical lookup, I can pull up a data which is staked in a columnar part, and I should have a unique column to pull parallel row from the other data part. For example, if I want to work with VLOOKUP, so I should have one unique column, or I can simply say that that particular data should not have any duplicate in it. And based on that particular column, I can pull out any parallel column which is there available in our entire list. If I want to work with VLOOKUP, I need to have the following syntax breakup. When I go for a VLOOKUP functionality, you can see on top that I have a VLOOKUP screenshot on top where I have just made the screenshot look a little smaller, but I'm making it a little bigger for us now. And you can see I have 4 syntax coming up here. So I have explained each and every syntax below. The lookup value is the value which I told you earlier that I need to have a unique column in my data so that I can pull out the parallel data from that list. I can pick up any data in any order I really require it. So we are about to see 2 different examples today. The first example, I'm going to pull out a data in the same sheet here, or I can, if you want, I can put it in a brand new sheet also. I'm going to pull only one column here, and if I want a multiple column to be pulled using the same VLOOKUP function, I can still do that. So for this, you have to get back to the previous video that I've sent, my video number 4, where we have done or dealt with cell references. I'm about to use the cell references inside a VLOOKUP. As I promised earlier, I said I just gave you an idea of what is the cell reference is all about, and in this particular video I'm going to show you how to use the cell references inside a VLOOKUP functionality. So let's see how to do that. So whatever the table that I've used in our previous class, the table functionality, I'm going to use the same table in here. So this is the table that I'm going to work on, and if you closely watch, I have multiple columns in here. So if you closely watch, I have around 9 columns of data. So whenever I work with a VLOOKUP, this is how I work. This is how I worked in my real-time scenario too. So I'll just number the columns here. So I'm going to just give 1 here, and if you want to add this as a list, I can just add this list here. So I used fill series functionality. So I'll be creating a new video on fill series soon. So every time when I add a video, I'm giving you a new topic now and then. So in the previous video, I told you that I'm going to create another video on offset functionality. And today I just showed you how to work with the fill series, and I just used one number short, so I just added the final number at the last. So I'll give you a detailed idea about fill series as we go forward. So now we are about to see how to work with VLOOKUP. So generally in reality, when I work with a VLOOKUP functionality, we will have a raw data like this, or we will be having a data like this. We may require only one field out of that data to be pulled out, or we may require more than one field to be pulled out in another sheet or in the same sheet itself. So I'm going to just take up a brand new sheet in here, so that allows me to work with VLOOKUP in multiple sheets. So generally when we work, so we will have a raw sheet, we'll have our fine-tuned sheet. In the fine-tuned sheet, that's where we want our given specific columns to pull out. So let's see how to do that. So whenever I work with a VLOOKUP functionality, I don't type the header name in here. So I wish, or I would like to always use a copy button here. So I'm going to just take the first column. So this is what the unique column that I have. If you closely watch, I have an invoice number which is coming from 101 to 115, which is once given in the list. It's not happening all over the point. I can put any data up front, or I can put the last invoice number first and the first invoice number last, however way I feel it is appropriate for me. So now I'm going to just take the header alone, copy it. I'm going to add a brand new sheet in here. So you can add a sheet by just pressing one or the plus button at the bottom of a sheet, or you can give shift F11, which allows us to add a new sheet. But again, when I use a shift F11, I have one disadvantage here. So let me show you what I can do with a new sheet addition. So I'm going to just delete this point, and now I'm going to add shift F11. So when I press shift F11, you can see automatically I got a sheet in here, but my sheet was added before the active sheet, not added after my active sheet. But if I wish to add a sheet after my active sheet, I can do that. But again, as I use my shift F11 feature to add a new sheet, I don't want to really work too much about it, so I'm going to just drag and drop it. At the last, I'm going to rename them. So once I rename it, I'm going to just say Vlookup output. So now I'm going to do this output in 2 dimensions. The first part is I'm going to bring in a single column dynamic Vlookup. I've just named them all by myself, so probably I don't know whether this was used earlier. So I'm going to use a single column dynamic Vlookup. So this is the way which I've used Vlookup for a few years now. So I'm teaching even to all my students the same logics. So people do Vlookup in a different way, so I'm trying to do it in one fine way here. So let me go back to my data. So I'm going to copy the invoice number, go to the next sheet, add the invoice number here. So now I wish to add one of the data in here. So if you closely watch in my Vlookup data structure, what I did is I just numbered the columns on top. So now I know how many columns do I have here. So I have around 10 columns of data here. So I'm going to pull the data based on my invoice number. I can either pull a date, or country, state, city, sales rep, customer, product number, or product name, purchase cost, or sale price. I can pull anything that I wish I want. I can pull them up. So for that, I need to know the column which I wish to put them up in the list. So here we go. So I'm going to just pull one of the data here. So I can either pull 8 the product or 10 the selling price, or I can pull both of them. So first of all, I'm going to make it a little more easier. I want to see for what invoice number, what is this particular product that I sold. For example, I want to know that 110 invoice number. What is the product that I sold? Like on the screen, I can see that it is Samsung Galaxy S10, and this may not happen in our normal list. So I think that I've misspelled the Samsung here. So I'm going to just replace that with data here. So I'm going to just change this once, and this is what the data that I have in here. So Samsung Galaxy, that is what is the data available for us. But again, I'm just having countable numbers here, so I can easily work around with that and I can get what I want here. But if it is a larger data that comes into play, then finding out a particular column or particular cell references is going to become a very tough job for us. This is where Vlookup plays a major role. We can use a lot of other functionalities, but I'm pulling out Vlookup as the best logic possible. So when I go to the first screen again, so this is the Vlookup functionality. So I'm going to use this as a base here. So let me bring this simultaneously in my sheet, and I want to show you how it's going to work for us. So I'm going to just reduce the size of it to maybe 100. So let me go to the view tab and click 100%. Then I come back to my output sheet. This is what I'm going to build out now. Now I want to see these two sheets simultaneously, but if I want to see the sheet simultaneously, I need the sheet to become more than once. So if I want them to be more than once, so I'm going to use the option called new window option. So when I click this, this particular sheet is duplicated more than once. Now you can see that I have video 5 in two different sheets. Now I'm going to bring them simultaneously side by side. So I'm going to go back to my view, hit the side by side button, and you can see that both of the screens are displayed here. So I'm going to take the introduction of this point. So this is for my reference. I'm going to keep it, so I'm just making the other field a little larger manually, and I'm keeping the display field as separately. So now you can see that both my data are parallelly available for me. And on my left hand side, you can see how the formula I'm going to use it, and on the right hand side where the output is going to come into play. So as I told you earlier, so here this is what I'm going to work on. So I'm going to have a lookup value. So I'm going to going to add a number, the numbers that is available there in the list here. So let me just pull this data part for us. So I'll take the data here itself. So I have 101 to 150. So I have 15 invoices here, and I'm going to just bring that as a point. So when I say unique value, the invoice number is what, which is going to be used to pull my data, which is available in my list, and I'm going to select the entire table here. So there is no table built as such here, so I just have a raw data coming up here. And if I go back to my sheet again in here, so I have a 10 column in here. I'm going to take the 8th column, that is called the product column, to populate in my list here. So the column index number is going to be 8, and I'm going to call it as product column here. And I can choose at the last, the logic is range lookup. The last logic is the most important part. So if you want an answer exactly, then I use the first option, that's called 0. We call this as exact match. So if there is a number is available there, then it's going to give you the answer for us. And if it is not there, then it's going to say, sorry, I don't have an answer for it. So I'm going to give you a hashtag not applicable. This is what the answer you will get when you are not going to have the number there. But instead, I use a 1 in here. Then it's going to give you an approximate match. So it's going to search for your number, and if you don't get it, it's going to give you your last row's answer. So that's what it's going to do for us. So when I work around with this data structure, so my data is going to work a little differently here. So let me make it a little bigger here. So I'll make this data as a list. So let me just make this a little bigger. So I want to make these two both available to the same list. So I got my list here. So let's see how to work on this part. So if you want a single column dynamic VLOOKUP to work around, so I have a structure to work on it. So the first structure that I'm going to work right now is I have an invoice number here. So I need to have value to pull my data. So I'm going to pick up 4 to 5 invoice numbers here. So I'm going to say 110, 111, 112, 108, 105. You can see that my invoice numbers are ordered in my VLOOKUP data. But when I pull a data to a VLOOKUP output data part, I'm not so keen about it. So I'm going to pull any data that I'm going to use here. So as I told you earlier, so my real requirement in here is I'm going to just pull the data which belongs to these invoice numbers. I want to pull the data called product. So now I have a number that I've manually fed in here. So based on this number, my VLOOKUP is going to pull the data for me, and it's going to give me the answer there. So let's see how to work with this part. So if I want to work with this part, then I need to use the Vlookup functionality. In general, people use Vlookup functionality from the first answer point, but as I'm using Vlookup a little differently, I'm going to even pull my headers too. So if you closely watch, my Vlookup data has a header here. So it says invoice number, date, country, state, city, and so on until selling price. And now I'm going to just change that part, and I'm going to just use the product to pull it here. So when I use a VLOOKUP in here, it's going to search for the invoice numbers parallel header. So the invoice numbers parallel header on the 8th column is product. So that's what's going to come and play here. And as I go down words, it's going to pick up the number in here and choose the product to it. Pick up the number in here, choose the product here. Pick up the number here, choose the product here, and so on. So it's going to pick up the relevant data for the right invoice number. So I'm going to make my right hand side data a little bigger so that you can see that both the data is going to become bigger. So I'm okay with that. So I'm going to just go back to my Vlookup screen here. So this is the data that I'm going to work on. So first I'm going to just use a Vlookup functionality. So I'm going to just say equals Vlookup. So generally when I use a formula, so I don't type the entire formula. I just type the formula to the first 2 letters or 3 letters, maybe 4 letters or something like that. Then I want to populate the formula completely. To populate the formula, I'm going to hit a tab. When I hit a tab, you can see that the formula is completely populated, and you can see that there is an open bracket and my cursor is clicking in there. So as I have around 4 different logics here, the lookup value, the table array, the column index number, and the range lookup. So I'm going to use these 4 syntax here. So I want to see how these 4 syntax is going to work. So I'm going to use the logic called control A. The control A will take you to the base of the formula, which is called function argument. It's going to give you a small idea about what are these 4 syntax that we are about to use and what this particular function can do for us. And it gives you a small idea, looks for the value in a leftmost column of the table and then returns the value in the same row from the column you specify. By default, the table must be sorted in ascending order, but I didn't do any ascending order, descending order. Still, my data is going to give me the answer here. And the lookup value is the value to be found in the first column of the table and can be a value, a reference, or a text string. So this is what a lookup value is all about. So when I tab it to the next line, it gives you an example of what is a table array. Is the table or a text number or logical value in which data is retrieved. Table array can be referred a range or a range name. So I didn't use any range names here. I'm going to just manually select the entire table in here. Then when I go to the next point, it says column index number. What is the column index number is? The column number in the table array for which the matching value should be returned. The first column of the value in the table is column 1. So now, as I told you earlier, I numbered my Vlookup table earlier, so that's why I just numbered it. So this is the 1. They say that the first column is called as column number 1. So you can see that I have just numbered the same way. So I just numbered the first column as 1, and I keep on numbering the other column. So that's why I use the numbering options here. And finally, I'm going to use the final part. It's called range lookup. It says that it's a logical value to find out the closest match in the first column, sorted in an ascending order. This is equal to true, or omitted, find an exact match is equal to false. So I can either use a normal logics like a approximate match here or an exact match, but I wish to find out an exact match. All my data is going to give me the answer correctly. So I'm going to just come out of the screen once. I'm going to give an escape. Then I'm going to add one more number here, which is called 116. So this is the number that I don't have in my base data. So when I try to answer this, it's going to be a little bit more polite to me, and it's going to answer me so that I'm sorry, I don't have an answer here. So you don't have an invoice number setting as such, so you don't have a product for that particular invoice number until you raise an invoice. If I'm going to use the approximate match, the 1 in the range lookup functionality, then it's going to answer me the 15th column's answer. For example, if I go to my data part here, so my product for me is Apple 11 Pro Max. This is what the data that I'm going to add in here. So if my answer is not there, if I'm going to keep the last range lookup as 1, then it's going to give you this answer. If it's an exact match, it's not an approximate match, I'm going to give a 0 there, then it's going to say as politely as possible as not applicable. Let's see how to do that. So I'm going to just go back to my list here. I'm starting my Vlookup from the header. So I'm going to say equals VLOOKUP as usual. Give a tab, Control A, which takes you to the point. Then now I'm going to choose one by one. And here I'm going to have a lot of advantage when I use a Control A function argument. So the system controls the system's flow easily. I don't want to hit a comma in each and every formula as I normally do. So if you closely watch on top of my screenshot of the VLOOKUP, it says VLOOKUP value, comma, table array, comma, column index number, comma, range lookup. I don't want to add a comma here as I'm using a function argument directly. So I'm going to just click the invoice number here. As I'm selecting only one column here, I don't want to use a cell reference for the first part, but when I use a multiple column, I will be using a cell references. As I go forward for the next example, I'll give you a little idea about how it's going to work for us. So I'll hit a tab here. Then it's asking you where is your table array. So I'm going to just pick up my VLOOKUP data table and I'm going to select from the invoice number to the last line and select all of them. Remember the 1, 2, 3 that I've typed on top, I'm not going to use it at all. So once I select this point, so I don't want this data to move down or upwards because I am having a jumbled number here. I don't have an ascending order as I stated earlier. So I'm going to press an F4 once in here so that it's going to give you an absolute cell reference. This we saw in video number 4 as cell references first type. Then hit a tab, then it goes to the next sheet automatically. Now you can see that this will not happen if you manually type a VLOOKUP. So you have to, when I have to choose that output sheet by yourself. So here the system understands that my cursor point is available in data where I have my output to be displayed. So it jumps to my VLOOKUP output sheet automatically. Now I'm going to select that number 8 on top and I'm going to keep that as also consistent and constant. I'm going to log this cell. I'm going to hit an F4 one time again. I'm going to add one more absolute cell reference. So I'm going to give a tab and I'm going to give a 0 here and give an enter or a control enter. So when I give an enter, it gives you the answer for me. Then I'm going to select all the way through, hit a control D. You can see it's populating almost all my answer except the last one. Let me check whether I'm doing it correctly or not. So I'm going to go back to my VLOOKUP data on my parallel sheet and I'm going to just drag it here. So my first logic is, so I'm going to freeze this column. So I'm going to say Alt WFF. It's going to freeze my column so I can move my cursor to the last so I can see it very clearly. So my 1/10th line item is Samsung Galaxy 10. So you can see that this is right. Cross-verifying it for a reason, and 111 is also right, 112 is also right. So again it's coming in one order. Now I'm jumping it to 108. So let's see, when I say 108, it's going to give you the right answer here, and I'm jumping backwards again. So 105, you can see the same answer comes into play, and such as for the 116 invoice number, unfortunately I don't have it, so it's not going to give me the answer. So let me do the same logic here right now. So I'm going to just make it to the center. So come back to my file tab, center it. So now I'm going to use the same logic in here. So I'm going to just copy it and paste it wire to my data. So now I'm going to use not the one which I have used earlier. So now I'm going to use the formula text to find out what's the formula that I've used in here. You can see at last I gave a 0. If I give a 1 here, let's see what happens. So that's what I'm going to try on my next list. I'm going to use one more logic this time. So I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to use a control enter function. So giving an enter and populating them using a control D. I'm going to use a control enter. So I'm going to say equals VLOOKUP control A. Pops up the data again. So I'm going to select the invoice number as my base. I'm not going to lock anything in here. Give a tab. Go back to my list here. So place your cursor in 1, shift control right arrow, and F4 once, tab, select the 8 on top, F4 once again, tab. I can either leave this field blank so that I get the approximate match automatically, or I can intentionally give a 1 or a 2. When I press 1 in here, So automatically you can see that it's giving you a true. If I give a 0, it can show that it shows you a false here. So you can use 1 or 2 or 0 or 1, whatever you want to use in here, you can use them. So you can either use a 0 or 1, and again we already used a 0 already, so I'm going to use a 1 here. Then I'm going to use a control enter tab, which populates all my answer in a single shot. Control enter, you can see boom, it gives you all the answer, but unfortunately it answers in the last line. As I told you earlier, so if it didn't get the answer for the last line, the approximate match is going to give you an answer which is there available in our last line. So I'm going to use the last function as 1. When I use the last function as 1, and you can see that it's giving you the last line's product answer as base. So it gives you Apple Pro or Apple 11 Pro Max is the answer. So those are two different varieties of lists that we are using in here. So now I'm going to improvise our list to the next level. So I'm going to just copy this, put it at the bottom. I'm going to create the next logic that's called dynamic or multi-column dynamic VLOOKUP. So I'm going to pick more than one column in this list. Again, you can either use exact match functionality if you wish, or you can use an approximate functionality. So whatever you use, it's up to you. You can use whatever you want to use in here. So based on that, the entire data happens. But I'm going to use in the subsequent trial that I'm going to use only the exact match functionality, not the approximate function. So let's see how to work on this part. So I'm going to just copy this column data again and paste it below, and this time I'm going to try more than one data structure. So this time I want my state, and I want my sales rep, and I want my customer, product, and sales price. So I'm going to take my state sales here. My sales state number is 4, and I need 6, 7, 8, and 10. So now I want all the 5 columns in one single pattern. This is where our video number 4 is going to be a very, very useful target here, a very, very useful information for us. So I'm going to use all the 3 cell reference that I've used. I've used an absolute cell reference in the point 2 part and big cell references, so row lock and column lock. I'm going to use all of them in here. So let me show you how I'm going to use it. So I'm going to just select all of them. I'm going to use a control enter option one more time, and let me make this even more bigger so that I can see them very clearly. So now I got all the lists. So forget about the left hand side, because as I increase the size onto my right, as we have a parallel sheet running through, so automatically whatever happens on the right, the left hand side adopts to the configuration screen like that. So it makes my screen make bigger or smaller. I can shrink it, or I can make it bigger. Whatever I want to do with it, I can do with it. So now I'm going to just give an equals Vlookup, Control A, and now I have the following lookups up here. So first I'm going to select my invoice number. In the earlier single column dynamic VLOOKUP, I never used cell references here, so I just followed whatever it's required there. But here I'm going to use the cell references here. I'm going to just press F4 thrice. I'm going to need a column lock. As I told you earlier, whenever I work with the cell references, I have to know how the data navigates. My data navigates in a column part in the invoice number, so I just log it to a column. If I choose the number that I've levied on top, that's 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, then I'll be using the row lock. So I'm going to just give a tab. Then it's asking you what is your table of arrays. So I go back to my VLOOKUP data, select my invoice number, shift control down arrow and right arrow. All our short keys will be shown in our list. Then I'm going to press an F4 once. I'm going to make it as absolute cell reference. As my numbers are jumbled in my answer, it's going to give you that list. So when I hit a tab, it automatically jumps to my VLOOKUP output sheet. Then I'm going to choose my column index number, and when I choose my column index number, I'm not going to leave it as it is. I'm going to use a row lock here. I'm going to press F4 twice. then hit a tab. As I told you earlier, I'm going to use only the exact match here. So I'm going to give a 0 here. When I press a 0, you can see that the answer shows you a false on the right. So once I'm happy with that, as I told you earlier, so when I give a normal enter, it's going to give you the answer for the first cell alone. As I'm going to use the next option called control enter, which is going to populate all my answer in one shot, and it's going to give you an auto applicable in my last line completely. Just see that, control enter. So now you can see that the enter data comes into play. I'm going to give alt OCA, or I can use alt HOI, which expands the column according to my data structures. Now you can see that last line shows a not applicable because it has searched for that particular data on my left hand side table, and the last line that I have is 115, so I don't have 116, and it will show you the answer as not applicable. I just mentioned a name called dynamic VLOOKUP. So what did it really mean in here? So when I use a dynamic VLOOKUP, what happens to my data? So I just typed in 8 here. So it gave me an answer for 8 in both the columns. So if I type some other number, will my data is going to change? Let's see, when I give a 7, it's going to pick up my customer automatically. And if I give a 3 here, it's going to pick up my dates. But again, my dates, if the third column is a date, then it's going to represent in a numerical format, as my second column is my date. It's going to give you the numerical part of my date. It won't give you the date format. And when I press 3, you can see that it's jumping to the columns accordingly. So this is why I call this as dynamic VLOOKUP. And I did it for the first time on the single column. Now I can jumble this column however way I want. I want 10 to be first, 8 to be second, 6 to be the next one, 4 to be the last one. You can see that it's changing. And I can put any number in here. So I'm going to just say 101, 105, 115, 109, 108, 107. You pick up the order. It's going to give you the answer accordingly. I'm going to select the whole column or OCA, so it's going to expand according to the data structure. So this is how we use a single column and a multiple column dynamic VLOOKUP. Hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll be coming out with a brand new video next time. So next time I'm planning to do 2 different logics of Excel. One is the fill series, which will be a very important tool for a new user or a person who want to play around with numbers and other component. Probably that's going to be a very useful tool. I'm going to use a fill series option instead of using an autofill functionality. And then if time permits, I'll be adding one more data or one more formula called offset function, which is a forgotten function by most of us, and probably we may use it for our complicated operations. Hope you enjoy my video here, and this is Vinod signing out. Have a great day ahead, and as we all know, please be safe, stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Vinod signing out of YouTube channel Excel Snippet, and your video number 5, part 2 comes to an end. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.